night it's been called our biggest ever youth movement. It unleashed illegal raves, smiley faces and ultimately a huge club-based culture. Well, 20 years on, the BBC's Pete Wardman, who was there at the start, takes us back to the days when a good night out meant a field in the middle of nowhere.
BBC Radio Nottingham with Pete Wardman.
This is me doing my day job, a BBC local radio presenter.
The sunshine is still there, it's just behind the clouds.
It's behind the clouds. But what I want to tell you about now is my other passion. For over 20 years, this kind of music had a very large part in my life. Being a DJ took me all over the world, and while I never really made my fortune in the dance industry, others have made millions. But where did it all begin? And how did it get from illegal raves in farmers' fields to world domination? In the 1980s, things were very different. The sun even shone in the summer, and the music was different too.
Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games.
And for many young people, the songs were dull, formulaic, and very, very safe. But in 1988, things changed forever. Acid House, a new sound straight out of Chicago, came exploding across the Atlantic and settled all over the East Midlands.
I knew I'd sort of stumbled upon something incredibly special and unique. And for about 18 months there, you really had the feeling that you were part of the best kept secret in the world.
We were part of an explosion, part of a big youth movement, probably one of the most significant youth movements of the century.
I knew, and a lot of people knew, that what was happening was really special.
I think people had a real sense of togetherness and commonality and love.
It was just all about dance, and that was very different at the time.
The timing was perfect. Britain had been through a turbulent decade of Thatcherism, strikes and recession. We were the next generation. Suddenly this felt like our chance to define ourselves.
It was the first time that it brought all cultures, I think, together under the banner of dance, and everybody just wanted to dance. That was the only agenda for being out.
The Acid House scene was almost born out of a recession, really. So there was a real bond and unity amongst that generation.
More or less overnight, the rave scene took hold. Free parties were happening everywhere, and the new ravers were embraced by a community normally considered outsiders. Alan Lodge was a New Age traveller who saw at first hand how things changed.
It really was a spread of music. There was some slow bleeps and there was some fast bleeps and there was some industrial sounds and there was all sorts of things.
All you needed was a sound system, a field, and for many people, a new drug called ecstasy.
By August 1988, the smartly dressed, cool-looking people of Nottingham had all started wearing baggy dungarees, baggy t-shirts and smiling all the time. I wonder why.
It became the country's biggest ever youth movement, more inclusive than the 60s, bigger than punk, and inside the clubs things were changing too. At Nottingham's famous Garage Club, regulars couldn't wait for the weekend.
Just to get in here, if you got in, you felt good because you were considered alternative, whatever that meant at the time.
Graham Parks, who was DJing at the time, was the guy who was drawing on a range of sources for the kind of music that he was playing. So there was really good quality dance music, sort of soulful, housey, hip-hop, rap, you know, lots of different influences were coming to bear on the sort of stuff that he was playing.
It was very weird and very small. This is where it all began. And I feel like, you know, when you watch them documentaries about the Cavern Club and stuff like that, and suddenly I'm in one.
long before the authorities noticed what was going on across the country.
Under a law just passed, the party organisers could face fines of £20,000 and 6 months in jail.
Peaceful people that quite mild-mannered individuals who didn't represent any kind of challenge to the state or major criminality, and yet they had very severe tools applied to them in the shape of truncheons and battering rams and CS spray and baton charges and shields and all sorts of things.
For most of us, it felt like the end, but for some, like Jeff Oakes, it was a new beginning.
There was a real lull in the scene where the raves were being shut down, people were slowly migrating into clubs. It was kind of time to come back indoors again.
And Jeff knew where his new clubbing revolution had to be based.
Mansfield, what are we doing? And the reason I chose Mansfield was that if I did a party in Mansfield, people would have to make a damn big effort to get there, and no business logic attached to that whatsoever. That was just me wanting to put on the greatest secret party in the UK.
Jeff's Night Renaissance went on to become massively successful and is still putting on events around the world today. The scene had become big business, and if you wanted to make it as a DJ, there was one place you had to head to: Ibiza. 15 years ago, a young DJ called Jules picked me up from the airport for my first time there as a DJ, and I've come back to Ibiza to see how things turned out for him. Of course, Jules is now Judge Jules, one of the biggest and perhaps richest names in dance music.
I first came to Ibiza in '88, and like most people's original experience of Ibiza, that's about all I remember. It was a case of being in the right place at the right time. I sort of started DJing in the mid-'80s when I was very, very young, playing a sort of mix of rare groove, old school hip-hop and kind of generally funky stuff. Then house music came along, and like everybody at the time, I caught the bug.
It may be nearly 10 years since I last DJ'd in Ibiza, but in space, now one of the world's most influential clubs, they've been paying homage to that summer 20 years ago. Although you suspect many of them here tonight weren't even born then.
I always look back and wish I could have gone to them nights, but you know, there's probably people that are married now that wish they could come out now, but they're not allowed to.
This isn't Ibiza, it's Colville, and I'm here to get the night going. After all these years, I still get a massive buzz from playing this kind of music, and it seems that, thank goodness, people still love hearing it.
It's always been music, from the sort of soulful roots all the way through to the harder genres that you have now. Just awesome. I love it.
It's just there, isn't it? It's banging, it's just kind of hooks you in. Yeah, it's amazing. There's nothing about it not to like. Even my mum likes it, she's 81.
So could it happen again? Well, many people say yes, and that it's only really a matter of time. But for me, and for plenty of others, it's never really stopped.
Pete Wardman's still raving in middle age, and if you want to see more of those interviews with the likes of Judge Jules, then go to our website. But that's it for this week from Newstead Abbey. In fact, for this series, next Wednesday there's an Inside Out England. But if you've missed anything from tonight's programme, then you can watch again on the BBC iPlayer. Bye for now.